So, I'm not going to do a long episode. I know I say that all the time, but yeah. I'm not going to do it tonight, guys. I'm not going to do it. It's going to be short, but sweet. Maybe a little tart. I don't know. Should have done one yesterday to put out today. I should have done one last week. I should have done one, the Tuesday prior. But I just haven't. It's not that I haven't felt like doing them. I've definitely written down notes in my phone. I've definitely wanted to do a show for you guys. But truth be told, whenever it would become time to sit down and record an episode, I was too drunk. I was too drunk to do it. I could have done it. I could have probably held it together and put a show together, but motivation-wise, I didn't feel like doing it. I probably could have stumbled through it. I probably could have had some good content. It probably would have been entertaining. But I didn't, because my work ethic was just not there. I go to work at Homegrown Brew House. That's where I bartend. I go there. I don't feel like going there. I don't feel like going there most times because I'm normally hungover. I'm normally not feeling well because I've had too much to drink the night previous. Not normally. Every damn time. But I have to go there because I have to make money, because I have to pay bills, and I have to get through this thing we call life. I have to get through this thing we call life. And as we say that, let's finish the rest of this fucking growler I got right here. Because this is going to be it. Oh, don't pour it over the keyboard. We know how that goes. Yeah. So, I don't even know what's left in here. Probably not much. Maybe one glass full. I don't know. I don't even know where I got this glass from. I just found it in the cabinet. It says Oktoberfest on it, so I've got it. Or maybe Tommy got it, my roommate. But because I don't remember this glass at all. I don't remember where this came from. I want to say it was probably from this past Oktoberfest. Could have been 3 years ago. I don't know. It could have been sitting there the whole time, and I just don't even know it. But anyway, what I just poured in there. Let's make sure I don't pause this freaking Audacity like I did on the botched episode. This is the Stone Grapefruit Slam IPA from Stone Brewing Company out of Escondido, California. It's an IPA. It's an Imperial or double IPA, a DIPA is what some people like to call it. 8% ABV. There's no IBUs listed. Average rating of 3.68 out of a little over 12,000 ratings. We've made a hell of a lot of beers since 1996, probably thousands at this point. Some stick around for decades, some for a few years, and some are brief visits, gracing us with their hoppy presence for a short time before becoming fond memories. Occasionally, stars, planets, and breweries' schedules align, and we bring back one of these ephemeral creations. In fall of 2014, we created a draft-only version of this delicious double India Pale Ale. Its bitter, zesty grapefruit peel infusion created a bright accent to flavors of pine resin and fresh citrus, well in balance of the explosion of fruited beers we're all reveling in at the moment. We never stop thinking about it. So along 5 years later, we're bringing back Stone Grapefruit Slam IPA for round 2. It's a link to the past, planted delightfully in the present. It's a nice write-up. Sometimes these guys give you no description whatsoever. And then you got guys like the Stone guys out there that are doing fantastic descriptions. And that's what it should be. I should be able to read a description. I want to form my own opinion about the beer and smell my own smells and taste my own flavors and stuff. But I also would like Stone to tell me what they created for me. And maybe some people think if they give you a description that you're not going to form your own opinion on it. And that you're going to just say, oh, yeah, that's exactly what it tastes like, because that's what they told you it tastes like. So I could see the differences, I guess. I think maybe some people don't give a description because they want you to decide what you think instead of them telling you what you should think. So, yeah, so that's what I'm drinking. We have this on tap. It might not be on tap anymore. It might be gone by now, but it's on at Homegrown Brewhouse. So today I told myself was the day that I was going to stop drinking, along with yesterday and the day before and the day before that and the day before that and the week before that and the month before that, because I know it's not good for me. I know I went back and listened to the awakening episode. God, it makes me choke up just saying the word, the name to that episode. I didn't record an episode, like I said, because normally I was a little too intoxicated to record something, or else I just didn't feel like it. Just didn't give a shit. So I went back, I don't remember when it was, maybe last Tuesday or the Friday episode, or it might have been a midweek like I'm doing today. This will come out on a Wednesday. But I went back and listened. Something sparked in me that I wanted to go back and relive that episode. So I went back and listened to it. And it really brought up some feelings that I knew were already there, that I knew I was already trying to mask, through alcohol. And I reposted it. I got feedback from it, and a lot of conversations started because of it. And it just brought back to the surface a lot of what I've been trying to push down since 2012 now. I've been in a depression since 2012. Some might say I've been in a mild depression since 2003. 2003? Yeah. 2003. But a real heavy depression since 2012. From 12 to the midpoint of 14 was super, super heavy. Like I've mentioned in a couple podcasts, I definitely tried to leave this world and end it and get out of here in those couple years. Did not, obviously, right? I don't even think I need to say that. It's pretty obvious. But it's still been there. I had a great paying job that kind of masked some of my depression and my insecurities and my, I don't even know the words, but money kind of hid that for a little bit. I was back to being successful in my career. And, if you go back and listen to the Awakening episode, I totally spelled out what transpired over the last few years and why I've been in a depressed state. One of the biggest reasons was over a girl that I was dating, that I was very serious about, that I asked to marry me, and that she turned me down. And I don't blame her. I said during that episode, I don't blame her. Why would you want to marry somebody that's unstable and is an alcoholic and has a problem? I wasn't even going to do this episode. I was just going to put a post out there on Instagram. Hey, look, I'm taking a little hiatus, at least through the rest of the month of April, maybe into the month of May. But I felt like I owed it to, the followers that I do have out there, the people that listen to this show and that value it and that get something out of it. And I hope they get something out of this one. I think there's always something to be said. I think there's always something to be learned in any conversation. So I hope that this is no different. I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. I don't even know. But I went back and listened to the Awakening, and I hope you did too, because I think it's got some valuable lessons in that episode. I didn't do a video on that one. I wasn't up and running with the video at that point, but it's a great audio. And I relearned something when I went back and listened to it. And what I relearned was that I'm still not in a good place. And that has come to light, real bright light, over the last couple weeks, the last few weeks even. As I drink the last of this beer, that made me decide that I need to do something. And I think I scared a lot of people over the last week, and definitely over the weekend, and I've realized that I need to do something. I think other people have realized that I need to do something. You know, like I said, I told myself today that this is the day I stopped drinking. I'm gonna quit cold turkey. And then I started thinking to myself, or I didn't start thinking to myself. I started telling myself, no, you can't just quit cold turkey, Brian. That's not the way to do it. That's not healthy. You need to kind of titrate out of this thing. So why not just have one beer? And let's just do one beer for a couple days and go that route until we titrate off and kind of round down to zero. Well, one beer became 2 beers, and then 2 beers became 3 beers, and then 3 beers became 4 beers, and 4 became 5, and now 5 has become 6. And on a normal day, I'll drink 8 to 10 beers. For a few reasons. Number one, it helps to numb the pain and help me forget about some of the things that I constantly think about that keep me awake at night. That it just numbs the pain. Number two, I've got this blood condition I talk about all the time. I've got high blood pressure that is skyrocketing out of control, probably because of my excessive drinking. And I feel better when I drink. It thins out the blood. I feel like a lot of my blood pressure problem is related to the condition that I do have. I'm not helping it by doing what I do as far as drinking, but when I drink, I feel better. My headache goes away. My blurred vision miraculously clears up, to be honest. You would think it would get worse after drinking 8 to 10 beers. But I feel like my vision gets better. I feel like my hearing gets better. I feel like my headache goes away. I feel like I don't have the lethargy and I just don't have the pain that I experience when I'm not drinking due to this condition. And I think it's because of it thins the blood out, and it helps the blood flow a little bit. So I told myself, okay, that's a benefit. So let's do more of that. But the main reason is trying to numb. I just numb myself. I don't want to feel. I don't want to think about things that have passed. And I consider myself a strong guy, strong-willed, very confident, very positive, very forward-thinking. I can overcome any obstacle. I've overcome literally obstacles my entire life. I'm a strong guy. But there's just a few things obstacles that I'm having a hard time getting over. And a friend of mine said to me, well, have you thought about going to a therapist? And yes, I have. And I have gone to a therapist. But I feel like if you're an intelligent person, if you're of high intelligence, which I am, I'm not going to lie, that a therapist just doesn't work sometimes. I mean, I've gone to a therapist a few times, and the thinking when you go in there and you're an intelligent person is that this person does not know what they're talking about, and that you've already tried all those things. You already know all the answers. I know the answers. I know what needs to be done. It's just a matter of implementing those things. So yeah, I know. The recommendation is go seek help. Okay, well, it's nice for you to say. Easier said than done, as they say, right? And then, the other thought is, well, why not go to Alcoholics Anonymous or go get help for that? Well, I don't believe in that system. I don't believe that alcoholism is a disease. Now, a lot of you are going to get pissed off about that and say, oh, how the fuck could you say that? Of course it's a disease. I don't think it is. I think it's a behavior that needs to be changed. And I don't think Alcoholics Anonymous works for me because it's based on religion. And I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in God. And, you look up the 12 steps and they're all about God and accepting God and giving over your power to God and praying and blah, 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 blah. And that doesn't work for me. So, I'm the only one that has the power to stop this cycle. I'm responsible for my own actions. And I'm strong enough to do it. I've done it before. I don't even know what I'm trying to get at with this podcast, but let's see if I had any notes. I was going to start off the podcast on a lighter note and do an ad for the Fleshlight. Even though they're not a sponsor of this podcast, I thought it would be funny just to have a picture of it up on the screen and talk about it a little bit and maybe tag them in the post. Maybe I get some advertisement out of those guys. Maybe they'll pay me to advertise, but I decided against it. But I thought I'd let you know about it because it's still funny. Excuse me. I had the AC on trying to cool this place down because it was like 85 degrees up here and it just finally cut off. I heard it. I'll try and cut that out in the audio as I did in the last podcast I did with Dale Lippin. We already talked about the Awakening episode, going back and listening to that. I did some yard work last week. That's kind of boring. I'm not going to talk about that. Originally, this podcast was going to be called the fuck was I going to call it? It was going to be called, damn it, what the hell? The Uneasy episode? No, it wasn't the Uneasy episode. It was the the Offensive episode. That might have been what it was called. I cannot remember what I was going to call it. I just changed it on the way home to the Depression episode. And that may change as well. That might not be the name of the episode when you see it and when you're listening to this. But I had a bunch of stuff down here about religion, about Notre Dame, about baby on board signs, in a car, about slow children at play signs and neighborhoods. I just had a bunch of stuff that was, I don't know. I'm really not going to talk about any of those tonight. I've changed my mind. That was over the weekend when things were happening. Then I was going to talk about the Easter, massacre or whatever. I don't know. And I'm just not going to do that tonight. What I do want to talk about, and I'm smacking a lot into the mic. I do want to talk about that, a lot of people are dealing with shit. And you don't know what people are dealing with, so be nice to people. Because, I can sit there and put on a smile all day long, and I can hold a conversation, and I can talk to you, and I can bartend, and I can be friendly, and I can be happy and go lucky, and just running around with a smile on my face, having a good time. But deep down inside, I'm depressed as a motherfucker. And I've got some issues that I need to work out. in my head, and I've got some things that are just tearing me apart inside, and they're driving me to drink 8 to 10 drinks a day on a day. And people got issues. Be nice to people. That is what I'm trying to get across in this episode. Be nice to people, because you don't know what people are dealing with. You know, I get on Facebook all day long and I just see people just being mean to each other and just talking shit about one ideology or another, or talking about, you know, libtards and dim I don't know all the names people make up, and republitards, and people are just name calling all fucking day long and criticizing each other over religion and over politics and over sexual orientation and over just everything. And I try not to do the same thing. I try to be nice, but then I try and also, you know, stand up for the guy that's being criticized, and I try and give the opposite viewpoint, and I try and teach people that there's different ways of thinking, and some of them are okay and some of them are not, really. But we are all humans. We're all in this society together. Yeah, it's huge. There's a lot of fucking people in this world, and we all have different opinions, and we all have different thoughts, but we're all here together. If we don't get along, we're not going to be here. We have to get along. We have to put our differences aside and say, hey, let's figure out a way to stay here, and let's figure out a way for our kids to be here in the future, and let's figure out a way for our grandchildren and their grandchildren and their children to be here in the future, because we're not going to be. If we continue to be at each other's throats like we are, we're going to eradicate our species. And it's happened, you know, mostly through cataclysmic, is that the word? Events that have wiped out entire species and other subsets of humans. But we're going to do it to ourselves at the rate we're going. So just be nice to people. You don't know what someone else is dealing with. Oh my goodness. So what is my basic point for tonight? My basic point is I'm not doing well, guys. I put on an act. I go through the motions. I get up every day, eventually. I lay in bed 12 hours a day, really. There's some days I don't get much sleep because I stay up all night drinking and doing whatever and have to get up and go to work early or something, but I spend a lot of time by myself. I make appearances when I need to and when I have to, but I've really isolated myself, and I continue to isolate myself. I just like to be alone with my own thoughts. I just and I've pushed people away because of that. And I pushed, you know, the girl that I asked to marry me, I pushed her away because of that. And a recent relationship that I was in, I pushed away because of that. And even more recently, I'm pushing someone away. But I don't know what else to do, because I feel like a lot of times I feel like I'm poison. I'm not. All I'm going to do is hurt someone or eventually push them away because of, you know, the thoughts that are in my head and the depression that I'm going through. I'm not good for anybody right now. I'm not. I'm not good for myself. But we're going to get through it, guys. I'm going to get through it. We're going to get through it. This podcast is therapeutic for me. I enjoy doing it. I like doing shows like this where I talk about real issues. And hopefully, that helps somebody. It helps me temporarily at this point, but I hope somebody else listens to it and it resonates, and maybe they reach out and maybe they get help for themselves. Yeah. And I do stupid shit when I freaking drink. One thing I do is I drink and drive, which is the dumbest thing ever. And I spoke about it on the Awakening episode and said, oh man, I would never do that again. But you know what? When you start drinking, you don't remember what the fuck you said. You don't follow your rules that you set for yourself because you're not in your right mind. And not too often, every goddamn day, I'm driving when I shouldn't be driving. And I've gotten damn good at it. But I'm not good enough. You never know. You never know. And I've got to be done with it, man. I've got to be done with it. So starting tomorrow, I'm done. I've got to be done. And like I said before, will I quit forever? I don't know. I like beer. I mean, this is a show about craft beer. I created a show around craft beer. Now, is that because I'm an alcoholic, or is that because I just like craft beer? Is that because I like the industry? Is that because it was a good fit with the logo, and it just made it for a good podcast? Was it good because of the area that I lived in? Because there's a lot of breweries around here, and that there's a lot of content that I can create for this show. I don't know. I really don't know. But for a little while, I've got to get this under control, and I've got to come out of this coma that I'm in and start dealing with some thoughts that are in my head, and I can't deal with them if I'm numb. I don't deal with them, and that's the whole point. That's the entire reason that I drink myself into a stupor, is because I don't want to deal with the stuff that I've done. And no, I didn't kill anybody, nothing crazy, but just relationship stuff, man, just whatever. What do we got going on here time-wise? Hopefully the thing is recording. Yeah, we're at 28, almost 29 minutes now. So, I'm not saying this is the final episode, but I might not do any episodes for a little while. I might take a step back. I might not. I might do more episodes. Because if I can, get this drinking under control and stop it for a little while, I might be more cognizant to do the 2 episodes a week that I promised you guys I would do. Almost didn't do this one again tonight because, like I said, 1 beer turned to 2 and then turned to 3 and 4 and 5 and maybe another round, and I might not have come home and done this. But I felt like I needed to. I felt like I wanted to. I felt like I wanted to get these things off my chest and say it out loud. But yeah, I'm not in a good place. I want to be in a good place, but I'm not. But I'm going to get there. We're going to get there together, guys. I really had a great weekend at Homegrown. I had Dan Riley in there on Friday night. It was a fantastic show. He brought a lot of guests with him. I think they had 6 musicians up there. The place was pretty packed. Had a lot of good friends in there hanging out. Some people I hadn't seen in quite a while, so that was fun. And then Saturday night, I worked the morning on Saturday. Saturday night, we had David Dunning in there from the Live Bait band back in the late 90s and early 2000s. One of my favorite bands, growing up around town here, locally. And we were lucky enough to get him to come play in our listening room, Studio 117 there at Homegrown. Was with a good friend of mine there, and we enjoyed the night together and just had a fantastic time of music, and really took me back to my youth, to my 20s. I was singing every word to the songs. It was just fantastic. It was a great night. But you know what? I drank a little too much. I had beer. I had whiskey. I smoked a little THC. And got way overly intoxicated, and the night didn't end as well as I would have wanted it to because I overindulged. But the show was fantastic. And he has agreed, David and Bruce have agreed to come back in September, so that's fantastic as well. I look forward to that, and hopefully we can bring more people in there for those guys. We had about 33 people at this last show. It was great. Posted a lot of videos on Facebook. You can check them out on my personal page. But all right, guys, we're 32 minutes in. I think I've said what I needed to say. I think you've got the point. I'm going to try and go dry for a while. You may or may not hear from me. I hope you stick around. I hope you don't unfollow me or unfriend me or whatever. I will come back. I might be back next week for the regular shows, but I'm just not sure. I mean, I've even thought about checking myself in somewhere. All right, guys.